Good morning. How are you? You know, temptation is a funny thing. Yesterday I found myself being tempted quite a bit. And I don't know. One of the things that I find very helpful in the midst of temptation is surrender. But what do you surrender to, right? Great question. I don't know. Before I get too far off the beaten path, today I'm going to be reading from the Gospel of Matthew, chapter 4, verses 1 through 11. At that time, Jesus was led by the Spirit into the desert to be tempted by the devil. He fasted for 40 days and 40 nights, and afterwards he was hungry. The tempter approached him and said to him, "If you are the Son of God, command that these stones become loaves of bread." He said in reply, "It is written, one does not live on bread alone, but on every word that comes forth from the mouth of God." Then the devil took him to the holy city and made him stand on the parapet of the temple, and said to him, "If you are the Son of God, throw yourself down, for it is written, He will command His angels concerning you, and with their hands they will support you, lest you dash your foot against a stone." Jesus answered him, "Again it is written, you shall not put the Lord your God to the test." Then the devil took him up to a very high mountain, and showed him all the kingdoms of the world in their magnificence. And he said to him, "All these I shall give to you, if you will prostrate yourself and worship me." At this, Jesus said to him, "Get away, Satan. It is written, the Lord your God shall you worship, and him alone shall you serve." Then the devil left him, and behold, the angels came and ministered to him. It's kind of an interesting reading. The thing that kind of poked out at me right now is, as I was reading this, it wasn't until the very end when Satan asked Jesus to worship him that he called him out by name. And I also get this impression that yesterday when I was reading this, I got the impression that, the thing that I found interesting about this is that God puts up with the devil. In fact, upon reading it this morning, the intention I got is that he lured the devil in. Jesus intentionally went into the desert to fast and to be tempted. He fasted for 40 days and nights, and afterwards he was hungry. The tempter approached him and said, and the Spirit led Jesus into the desert to be tempted by the devil. Now, I guess I should have just read that first line. At that time, Jesus was led by the Spirit into the desert to be tempted by the devil. Now, keep in mind that you have Jesus, God, and the Holy Spirit, the Holy Trinity. At least that's what I believe as a Christian. They are three persons in one being. So it's kind of like Jesus, the Spirit and Jesus are of the same being, so he led himself out into the desert. Granted, this is a mystery, and it's really hard to wrap your head around if you decide to really dig deep into it. But so Jesus leads himself out into the desert, or he's led, however you want to see that. He's led out into the desert to be tempted. Why? Well, I think and I don't know, because I'm no master theologian, but I believe that Jesus wanted to put himself through some sort of training. He wanted to prepare himself. He wanted to see what the devil could and might throw at him. And so he went into the desert, making himself completely vulnerable, because not only was Jesus God, but he was also fully man. So he would feel those pains of hunger. He would feel the weariness. He felt emotional and physical pain. It's not like God was just some supernatural being that didn't feel the things that you and I feel. He felt all those things. He knows what it's like to be a man and all the beautiful and things and pains that come with it. And so, the question that I always ask myself is, what is this? What does this got to do with me, and how is it going to change my Sunday, my Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday? Well, I have to acknowledge that temptation comes every day. And how am I going to deal with temptation? I'm going to surrender. I'm going to surrender to love. I won't go into a big explanation, but basically, there's been a kind of a big upheaval in my home recently. There's been sort of a medical emergency, and my normal routine has been completely interrupted. And while I am tempted to be like, oh, this is, I'm a creature of habit, a kind of arraignment that this is what we got to do, got to do this right now, because this is what we do. This is what we do right now. That kind of lifestyle. I've just surrendered to that temptation and be like, I'm not going to let this bother me. I'm going to surrender myself, and I'm just going to live in the moment, and I'm going to live for love. Because after all, if Jesus could handle being, after he came and healed and ministered and loved just unendingly, if he could do that and then stand to be put on trial, have the crap kicked out of him, people spitting in his face, throwing stuff at him, whipped until his skin was ripped off his body, had a crown of thorns shoved on his face or on his head, and drag this big heavy cross across town with all these injuries, and then have nails put through his hands and feet, stripped naked and mocked once again until he died, well, then I think I can put up with a little inconvenience. Yeah. So how's this going to change my Sunday? Well, I'm going to try my best to continue to surrender to love and serve. Because without love, what is there in this world? I mean, love brings happiness. Stuff might bring some pleasure. Experiences might bring some pleasure. But love truly brings happiness, a lasting happiness. It cannot be taken away from me unless I allow temptation to do so. And will I make mistakes? Certainly I will. But I will do my best to not. And if I do, then I will go to God and I will say that I am sorry. And I will surrender again to love. I don't know. That's all I'll say about that.